Charlie Adelson is not giving up quite yet. His lawyers are fighting to undo his murder conviction with an appeal, claiming that jurors were biased, that FBI recordings, those wiretaps, that some of them were misused, and even jailhouse snitches that have come up since should not have been believed. So, could his appeal actually work tonight? We're breaking it all down.
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning journalist, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. This is the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime. And I am flying solo tonight, helping break down an appeal that has been filed by Charlie Adelson's appellate attorney, one of the best, if not the best, in the state of Florida, a guy named Michael Ufferman. Now, this was actually filed back on September 4th, in the middle of, it was actually the day that his mother, Donna Adelson, was convicted under the same charges, all three counts, the same as Charlie Adelson's. So this appeal and the filing of it got kind of lost in the shuffle, and henceforth, therefore, and thusly, that is why I'm coming to you now with an update on this appeal. Now, it centers around, of course, Charlie Adelson, who is a convicted periodontist at the center of the now infamous Dan Markel murder. For those who do not know about the case, Danny Markel was murdered back on July 18th, 2014. He was a rising legal scholar teaching law at FSU, Florida State University. He had gone to Harvard undergrad, Harvard Law, turned down a very high-paying private firm job to teach at FSU. He wanted to turn it into a top 10 university and was well on to top 10 law school at a university, and was well on his way to doing that when he lost his life in probably the most vicious and depraved ways possible. As we learned later on, hitmen were hired to kill him with a middle woman who was dating Charlie Adelson at one time and had children with Sigfredo Garcia, who is the convicted trigger man serving a life sentence, as is Charlie Adelson. So taking a look at this appeal, which is about, I think, 57, 58, maybe 59 pages, it really is kind of a roadmap of every single thing that the appellate attorneys, Michael Ufferman and company, that they think went wrong at trial. I'm going to take you sort of piece by piece, at least through the biggest pieces of their arguments. I'm going to pull out some quotes from you from the filing so you can judge for yourself. I guess the bottom line question here for you all, do you think there's any chance that this appeal could actually succeed? Tell us what you think under the comments section. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. So this is actually what's known as a direct appeal, sometimes also characterized as an initial brief of appellant. Again, it was officially filed back on September 4th, the same day Donna Adelson was convicted. And here's the process, basically. After a conviction in Florida, a defendant has an absolute and automatic right to appeal to the District Court of Appeal. In his case, it's the First District Court of Appeal. So his legal team filed this initial appeal brief laying out every single reason they believe the trial judge, Judge Stephen Ever, who is widely revered, why he made errors and why Charlie should, in fact, be given a new trial. Now, the state is going to have a chance to reply with something known as an answer brief, and then Charlie's team can rebut that with something known as a reply brief. So this is the world of appellate law, and we'll try to get a full show on with some appellate attorneys to discuss this. So point by point, let's start with jury selection. That's the first of the points. The defense in this appellate brief argues that jury bias essentially tainted the case from the get-go. Now, we just saw what happened with Donna Adelson, and I've had the privilege of interviewing three of the jurors who were three of the smartest people I've talked to in recent weeks. The irony of that is rich, considering Donna kind of felt all along that Tallahassee was this quote unquote hick town in northern Florida, but you got some really smart jurors who I think really were attentive during Donna's trial. But now Charlie's attorney is essentially saying that they were defeated from the get-go because of jury selection. Here's a direct quote on that part of the brief. The trial court abused its discretion by refusing to strike multiple jurors who admitted to preconceived notions of guilt. That is what Michael Ufferman and company are saying. They say that Judge Everett allowed jurors who had strong feelings about family murder plots, and that they could not be impartial. Now, we saw this in the voir dire and jury selection process with Donna. They're asking obvious questions like, had you heard about this? Do you have feelings one way or the other? In this case, we're probably going to hear something very similar from Donna Adelson's appellate attorney, whoever that is, once we get going with her appeals process. But you can be sure this is basically an automatic process that each defendant who is convicted automatically will appeal their case. That's what gives them some hope, I think. But in Charlie and Donna's case, in particular, in murder cases, these appeals are rarely granted, although it does happen occasionally. But their back is certainly up against the wall. And for Donna, she's got time against her side, turning 76 this coming February. Now, another part of this appeal has to do with the so-called Dolce Vita recording. That is where Charlie goes and meets Katie Magbanua in a restaurant in Sunny Isles, Florida, which is basically a tennis ball's throw away from where I'm sitting right now. And that was the undercover wire. And we had the FBI agent testify to this. He was at the restaurant when Charlie met with Katie Magbanua. Now, Charlie's team argues that the entire tape, the Dolce Vita, if you remember, there was also a witness who helped enhance the audio. So if you recall, the Dolce Vita tape was difficult, almost inaudible, till they had this audio enhancement. But the defense here, the appellate team, is arguing that the entire tape was confusing, was prejudicial, and should never have gone to the jury in the way that it did. And here's the direct quote as it relates to the Dolce Vita recording. The Dolce Vita recording was admitted in its entirety despite containing lengthy sections of inaudible, speculative, and irrelevant chatter. Now, I think the obvious thought process with Judge Everett here and the government is you're just going to listen to the parts that you can understand. Some of it was just unintelligible, but the defense is saying to put it all out there is prejudicial. They claim, the defense does, that prosecutors took words out of context. And again, this is a quote, invited the jury to speculate about what Charlie Adelson meant during the Dolce Vita recording rather than relying on admissible proof. So they're saying that the audio recordings basically allowed the jurors to speculate and not base it on what they were actually saying, even though they played the entire recording. It's kind of counterintuitive, but of course, this appellate team is going to do whatever they can in their power to get Charlie a new trial or get him acquitted altogether. So then we get to the jailhouse informants, which came up really during Donna's trial. Several inmates testified that Charlie or Donna had confessed while in jail. The defense really took issue with this, saying it was deeply unreliable. And here's the quote from this part of the appeal brief. The admission of testimony, this is a quote, the admission of testimony from jailhouse informants violated due process. As such, testimony is inherently untrustworthy and incentivized by self-interest. So these jailhouse informants violating Charlie's due process, and the testimony is not trustworthy, they're saying, and it's incentivized by self-interest, meaning that pretty much anyone in jail might want to talk because they know the reward could be either a shortened sentence, being let out of jail, whatever the case might be. They have their own interest at heart, and that is what the appeals team for Charlie is saying right here. They argued that the state propped up these informants, even though some of their stories conflicted. Now, I spoke to the jurors about the jailhouse informants who were sort of central to Donna's case, and they all said that they could only believe them to a certain degree. That, again, since you're dealing with jailhouse informants, you can only take their credibility so far. I thought it was fascinating to hear these jurors because they really understood the jury instructions and really took the law to heart and realized who was who. In particular, let's say someone like Rob Adelson, basically a character witness, versus someone like the jailhouse informants, and pin them against someone like Sergeant Chris Corbett. And all three jurors who I spoke to on Donna's panel, by the way, no one, as far as I know, no jurors from Charlie Adelson's trial have ever spoken out. Maybe they'll come forward now. Who knows? But this part of it was pretty fascinating. And all three of the jurors I talked to, getting back to Chris Corbett for a second, he's the Tallahassee police sergeant who deals in digital forensics. And all three of them said that he was the most pivotal and important witness for the government. So I thought that that was really fascinating. Then in this appeal filing, the appeals team, the appellate team, lays into Georgia Kappelman and Sarah Dugan. They say that the state, in particular Georgia, improperly played to emotion and not fact. That they were playing to emotion and not fact. But listen, that's what you do. I mean, opening statements are not evidence, and that's oftentimes what prosecutors do. So the direct quote from the appellate brief regarding this about closing arguments here, the prosecutors repeated invocation of sympathy for the victim and his family, and it was designed to inflame the jury, not aid in their search for truth. So I'll read that again. The prosecutors repeated invocation of sympathy for the victim and his family, Dan Markel and his family, was designed to inflame the jury, not aid in their search for truth. They argue just point blank and that Georgia Kappelman's summation crossed a line by portraying Charlie as quote unquote the monster son and Donna as the matriarch mastermind. So the monster son pitted against the matriarch mastermind. They thought that that was a bridge too far. Georgia is eloquent in her use of words. It was obviously very effective in Donna Adelson's case. I can't see a panel of appellate judges buying into this particular argument out of the different arguments presented, but we'll see what happens. A fifth point that the appellate team makes has to do with insufficient evidence. This is just a classic appeal ground here, which basically every appellate attorney uses, claiming that the state simply didn't prove its case. I think before the defense gets its case in chief, they always make that argument to acquit. Donna Adelson's team did that. In Donna's case, it didn't work. Here's the quote presented in the appellate filing. Even taken in the light most favorable to the state, the evidence presented failed to establish beyond a reasonable doubt that Adelson solicited or conspired to kill Markel. That's what they're saying. So the stapled money, meeting mom and dad to hand off money, the TV repairman, the code language, the wiretaps, all those things that the state gathered over this period of time. Quite simply, the appellate team is saying that's not enough evidence. Again, can't see anybody on the appellate panel of judges who will review this who are going to buy that argument, but it's an argument that they have to make as appellate attorneys. They stress under this point in the appellate brief that no direct evidence tied Charlie to the actual hitman. That's exactly what happened in Donna's case. And if you'll recall, Sarah Catherine Dugan made the analogy or the metaphor of like a train car. So you've got the conductor at the front, the engineer in the back. you've got Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera in one metaphorical car. You have Charlie in another metaphorical car. You have Don in another. A lot of people put Wendy in one of those train cars, and they're not necessarily talking or interacting with each other, but that train is all heading in the same direction with the same intent, with the same velocity, et cetera, et cetera. I thought it was a really profound metaphor to use, and they are saying, Charlie's appellate team, the exact opposite, that there is no direct evidence tying Charlie to the actual hitman, so they obviously wouldn't buy that metaphor, simply saying that they're only circumstantial links and speculative recordings, which is kind of interesting language. Circumstantial links and speculative recordings. I guess if you call FBI wiretaps of cell phones speculative, then it's speculative. But if you're listening to it the way the jurors did and found him guilty, I think it's pretty powerful evidence. And of course, you'll recall both Georgia and Sarah Catherine Dugan talking a lot about the difference between direct evidence and circumstantial evidence, with the whole metaphor of powdered donuts, and then the memes of Donna with powdered donut material all over her face. Again, the appellate attorneys are going to appel it. That's what they're going to do. But I'm using that as a verb, I think. But is it going to work? I don't know. Last but not least, request for relief, which is standard. They are asking the appeals court to wipe the slate clean, tabula rasa, if you will. That is the Latin phrase for clean slate, saying, and I quote here, this court should reverse Adelson's convictions. I'm talking about Charlie in this particular case. So this court should reverse Charlie Adelson's convictions and remand for a new trial, or alternatively vacate the judgments and enter judgments of acquittal. Again, this court should reverse Charlie Adelson's convictions and remand for a new trial, or alternatively vacate the judgments and enter judgments of acquittal. So either give this guy a new trial or just say, the heck with it. We're acquitting this guy. We're exonerating him. That ain't happening. I don't think a new trial is happening. So what does it all mean? Charlie Adelson's lawyers, they're doing, again, what appellate lawyers do. They're throwing everything at the wall. And again, Michael Offerman is the best of the best, the creme de la creme. They are saying that jury bias, bad evidence, unreliable informants, over-the-top prosecutors. I mean, this is Georgia's prosecutor of the year, and Sarah Catherine Dugan is likely to be a judge in a few weeks, if not months. So these are some of the best prosecutors you're going to get. But again, they're saying that jury bias, bad evidence, unreliable informants, over-the-top prosecutors, and lack of simple proof are all reasons that Charlie's trial should be given a new trial, or just be let out of prison, let out of Dodge. It ain't happening. Appeals courts don't often, as I said, overturn murder convictions. But this filing is essentially his big one shot at freedom. I mean, they're going to try other angles. I can assure you of that, because the only thing Charlie has to live for right now, in my opinion, is getting out of prison. And I believe he's on his way back to South Dakota from Leon County. And separately, under the video tab, by the way, when Charlie was in Leon County for Donna's trial, where he was maybe going to be a witness, never ended up being one, he had an absolute meltdown. And that includes some racial slurs. So I don't know if he's unhinged, trying to be a tough guy, trying to become a gangster in prison, but he's already having a difficult time. And you guys, I think, saw that Wendy's, the fast food, not his sister, video where he's scarfing down food like a caveman in 1432 after not seeing food for, a year straight. If the judges now agree with even one of these points, and I read 6 of them highlighted from this 57 or so page appellate filing, if they agree with just one of the arguments, Charlie could get a brand new trial. That, of course, would reopen one of the more recent infamous murder trials, not just in the state of Florida, but in the country. Obviously, the conviction of Charlie Adelson and Donna Adelson, 2 of the highest profile trials that there have been in recent years. So STS Nation, what do you think? What do you think? Do any of these arguments hold water? Is it just a desperate play by Charlie Adelson and his appellate team to try to keep Charlie out of prison or get him out of prison? Do me a favor, drop your thoughts in the comments section. Let us know what you think. Please keep checking out the video tab. We're putting a lot of new videos in there. There's one coming your way about game shows and convicted killers. I didn't realize how many there were. Wendy was also on a game show. She's not even indicted yet. She's an unindicted co-conspirator. Will that change? Let us know in the comments section. Also, please hit like and subscribe. And do me a favor, share the show with a friend. And lastly, if you haven't seen the video tab with the jury foreperson from Donna Adelson's case, there's a whole story within a story there that has to do with JC, the foreperson who's 26, dealing with a very difficult circumstance with her 1-year-old baby, Josiah. And we put a GoFundMe link in there. And the response from STS Nation is basically exactly what I told her it would be, but just incredible. STS Nation, in a matter of hours, donated something like $18,000 to the GoFundMe. In short, her baby has a congenital heart issue and is requiring multiple surgeries. She has 2 children. She's married. She's 26, going through a very difficult time. And she took time to be the jury foreperson, sit on the jury for all those weeks. She talks about this under the video tab. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. And it's a pretty remarkable story, considering everything going on in her life, that she was able to act as the jury foreperson. And we thanked her for her civic duty. One of the other jurors, juror number 5, Mitch McKenzie, he was and always will be a Marine and served several tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan. So these jurors were absolutely incredible. It is worth checking out. Mitch is under the live tab, the other 2 under the video tab. Please take a look, leave a comment, like and subscribe. Love you, America. Love you, Tallahassee. It's all about justice for Dan Markel, which is continuing to come, I think.